Hey good people, welcome back to Beauty and the Frizz. My name is Kara. Whether you're new or returning, thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. First of all, happy first day of spring. The weather seems to have turned here in Baltimore and it has been great. I just have been wearing like my little hoodies to work, don't need a coat. The kids are like, it's hot. No, you're gonna still wear your coat. That's how people get sick. But they are excited and their behavior also shows that they are excited, and I'm not happy about that. But I am happy about shopping my stash and looking through my eyeshadow collection to think about what palettes do I have that are getting me ready for spring or that I want to pull out this spring. So I don't want to call this a spring eyeshadow palette video. I'm just thinking about kind of that vibe, but also just palettes that I haven't used in a while. They give me a little bit of a spring vibe, and I need to get them into the rotation. So if you want to see these palettes, I think there are 15 actually. Keep watching this video. Let me know what you think. And if makeup is your therapy and your love, if it makes you happy, and you're just trying to make some better purchasing decisions this year, definitely join the community. I'd love to have you back. All right, let's get started. All right, y'all, so yeah, I was just thinking about palettes in my collection that give me those spring vibes. Haven't used them in a while, and I just want to get them back in the rotation. At this time of year, we're seeing a lot of pastels, Tasha, and we're seeing palettes that we basically already have. And I am trying to be a little more aware of that. A different layout, a different brand doesn't necessarily make it different. Different packaging does not necessarily make it different. And it's really hard, you guys. It's the way the marketing of a palette is and the way that the shadows are laid out in the pans and the palette. It may make you feel like it's something new, but a lot of things are just repeats. There really isn't much new under the sun. So let's dive in. The first palette I'm gonna go into is the one that I am wearing right now, and this is the Rose Quartz palette. And before I even show this up close, let me fix my lighting situation, y'all. It's gonna make me deeper, but that's okay because this video is not about the makeup. All right, so I'm a little bit deeper and that's fine, but I want you to see the palette in its true color story form. And here is the Rose Quartz palette. This is a beauty, you guys. I recently, actually, as in today, just finished a Lost review about this palette because it was just so deceiving to me. It wasn't the ashy palette that I thought it was. And this gives me some spring vibes. You've got these like mauvey shades, these little cool shades, and you've got these beautiful duochrome, just cosmic shades, I'm gonna call them, that I think really add to this palette. You've got some pinks here. I think this is a great palette to pull out for spring. And I do this every time. I never talk about in the beginning what makes a spring palette. I don't know if anything makes a spring palette, like per se. I think you should wear what you want when you want. But when I think about spring, I think about flowers blooming. I think about green grass. I think about pastels with Easter. I think about just these kind of light and airy type looks. And these are the palettes that I am, looking at today. So palette number 2 is gonna be the Glam Light Ice Cream Dream palette. And I can honestly say that I have not used this palette since last spring. I did a collab with some ladies here on YouTube and we did a pastel look. The reason that I pulled this palette out and the reason that I enjoy this palette, and I think I would enjoy it more than the Natasha Denona Pastels palette, is that you do have the deepening shades in this palette. Unlike the Natasha Denona, which is completely pastel. You can do a basic neutral look if you want to. You have a very deep shade here, brown, for the outer corner if that's something you need. You've got some really nice transition shades, and then I think the range of colorful shades that they have in this palette is great. I don't use this palette a lot because I don't go for the pastel type looks, But if I am gonna go for it, it would be from this palette, and that's why I won't get rid of it, and that's why it's on the list. I think the Ice Cream Dream palette by Glamlight is one of their classic palettes, and I do like the Glamlight eyeshadow formula. I don't have any issues with it at all. The price is great for the quality that you get. So I'm gonna go ahead with that for number 2. And y'all, I really went through my collection for this video. So I'm trying to pull out things that, you know, I probably haven't pulled out or mentioned in a while. So palette number 3 is going to be the Fairy Frolic palette, and this is by Unearthly Cosmetics. If this palette does not look familiar, it's because they did redesign the palette to have the square pants, and they redesigned the artwork. But here is the palette, and you can see you've got those beautiful spring shades, the greens, the light greens, the pinks. You got some golds here. This is a very beautiful palette. I feel like the Fairy Frolic palette is a classic palette from Unearthly Cosmetics, and I really love it. I love this mustardy yellow shade here as well. It's just a great shade. To me, this gives me spring vibes. Again, pinks, greens, not so in your face bold. Don't get me wrong, you can make some very bold looks with this palette, so I might not know what I'm talking about. Palette number 4, I should have made palette number 1. I should have kicked it off with this because classic. It is Tiny Marvels by Sydney Grace, and this is the collab with Mel Thompson. What can you say? Every time I think about this palette, especially now with her being gone and just how much like she meant to me as a content creator and someone who loved beauty, this was genius. I can go ahead and reflect and be honest that I was not feeling this palette at all when I saw it. And I remember saying like, I'm gonna buy it because it's Mel. Like, that's why I'm buying it. Little did I know that this would be one of the palettes that I would keep. If I had to give everything up, this is a palette that I would keep. This is a palette that really reminds me of spring, but it has so much versatility to it. One of the things I love, okay, obviously the shade Mantis, that's definitely a springy green. You've got Jewel Bee, you've got Flutterby. I mean, BB, Marvel, Web, like these shades here are really giving some spring vibes. But then if like you don't want to do that and you think about some of the other things that have to do with spring, like the bugs and the dirt and things like that, you've got those deep shades here. To me, if I had to pick one palette out of all the palettes that I'm going to mention today, if I had to pick one palette that encompassed spring, it would be this one. Like if I had to rank them, definitely this is number 1. I have grown to really adore this palette, and I didn't even have to grow to do it. When I got it, instantly I loved it. But when I initially saw it, like it was really hard for me to kind of envision color stories at that time, and I was like, I don't know. I'm glad I knew because this is beautiful. I think this is still available on Sydney Grace's website if you were still interested in this palette. And I love this palette. I will forever adore this palette because of Mel Thompson. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that some of these palettes I have not used yet. And I know that's embarrassing. Embarrassing, as my friend Akio would say. It is, it really is. But the 4 that I've mentioned, I have used, but this one I have not. This is the ABH Norvina 4 palette. I'm not sure if a lot of people like this palette or not, but this one just gives off spring vibes to me. It's very light. You've got a couple pastels in here, but when I just look at all the pinks and the purples and the lightness of it, I think this is a great palette to pull out for spring. Don't care for them having this pressed glitter shade in here, but I think the shades in here would give you a beautiful spring eyeshadow look, but also a look where you can go deeper if you wanted to. So I like this palette. I like the look of it. Again, I have not done looks with it, but so I can't say I like this palette, but I like the look and the idea of this palette. These palettes can be a bit overwhelming because they're 30 shades, you know? But what I try to do with palettes like this is make little quads, little 6 pans and things like that, and stick to that when I create an eyeshadow look, just to make it easier, you know? Like the teacher in me wants to always break things down into manageable parts. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Palette number 6 is another one I haven't brought out in so long, and this is the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. To me, this palette has like 2 moods. You know, you've got your blues and your pinks here, and this is where I was thinking about the spring look, and even this neon green type shade. I love it. It just reminds me of nature. You've got your forest, your grass, all that, and then you've got the flowers here, Flower Punk. So I think this is a great palette for me to bring out for the spring. One of the things I did not enjoy about this palette is this. I love the creativity, but you know, in the little promo pics, they had it looking all like, nobody's doing this in real life. Just saying. Did y'all see? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? When they did the little promo for the palette, they had the little top. Oh, shoot. They had the little top looking like this, like somebody's really doing that. It was not me. And see, I'm messing up the palette right now because the top's not on. It really grinds my gears because I can't maneuver with this, but I am gonna bring it out this spring. I am. I'm not gonna let that deter me from my goal. Palette number 7 is Vintage Rose by Give Me Glow Cosmetics. Yes, you guys. Ooh, what if Give Me Glow Cosmetics revamped all their palettes, like as far as the formula to whatever the new formula is, if it's good. A lot of, what do we call this? Hypotheticals here. But look at this palette. I mean, this is a rose. You've got the reds, the pinks, you have the green stem, you've got this antique. Like why? It's just so much. Vintage Rose is a really great palette and it's a really great color story. I just think that with the way the mattes are, because they are pressed pigments, they're not the easiest for everyone to work with. I will say that stepping up my brush game really helped with that. Let's take a gander at this one up close. Come on. This is beautiful. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do Vintage Rose or Vivid Rose, but I think either of them could have gone for spring, but I just love the pink and the green. You've got this pastel pink in here and the gold. I just think you can make more spring-like looks if there is such a thing. So that is Vintage Rose. Now palette number 7 is gonna be a newer palette to me, but I've used it twice and I love it. It is the Saga of Freja palette by Odin's Eye Cosmetics. And this is the one I call it the book. So you have 2 sides to the palette, but obviously mix and match, you know what I mean? So there's the first side and there's the second side. I think the variety of looks that you can get with this palette definitely give off a spring vibe. And I think it's a special palette. You know, I know some people may not like the little book aspect of it, but I don't mind it at all. The only thing is that I have a tendency to just kind of stay within the palette. So like in my mind, this is one palette and then this is one palette, but really we can mix and match across palettes and brands. So Saga of Freja is beautiful. I am just in love with Odin's Eye. So happy to have this one in my collection and on this list. The next palette that I want to mention is the America's Parks palette by Nomad Cosmetics. I love this palette and I don't think spring means that you need to have pink. This has such a nature vibe to it. And I always think about, and this could have happened in the summer, but I always think about them going around and exploring so many different places in our country as well as abroad. And I just thought this would be a great palette to pull out for spring. I think that the looks are a bit lighter than what some of the Nomad palettes offer on a regular basis. Like you can only go but so deep. And that's what spring reminds me of. It just reminds me of just light and fun. So let's look at this one up close. I just love all of the shades in this palette and I just love how they chose to do it. It does remind me of
done?
I'm almost done. Oh, I know, I'm sorry. It does remind me of just nature, camping, Love this palette. Not sure if I love camping. I would like to do some glamping. You know, I'm into that without kids. So I'm just kidding. They can come. Let's pull out some ColourPop, shall we? I feel like we shall. And I'm gonna do 3. We're gonna do them back to back. You probably know what one of them is because it is a spring palette as well as a green palette. But I'm not gonna start with that one. I am gonna start with the Tinkerbell palette, which I've never used. I did not get it when it came out. I got it on a sale. These greens totally give me spring vibes, and then you've got the little pinks there. I think this palette is great. You've got a little deepening shade there as well. I'm into this. I am really into this. And I know that ColourPop just came out with a new collection, and it's like, this looks like Tinkerbell, but I guess Tinkerbell is gone. So I'm thankful. Oh my gosh, I just thought of another palette in my, oh my God, how long is this video gonna be? Don't get tired of me, y'all. Please don't, because I'm thinking of like so many things right now. Oh my God. I mean, obviously we have the child. I'm not gonna go into it. I'm just not. Just real quick. Earthy. See, spring makes me think of like earthy nature. And that's what this palette reminds me of. This palette reminds me of earthy nature. And it's the child. Like, this is what's happening. I just wanted to go through that one quickly because I've talked about that palette a lot. I probably talk about that palette more than I wear it. But we also have the Sailor Moon palette. Look at Sailor. And you've got kind of like that light pastel type vibe. The quality of this palette is really great. I just think it may not be everyone's color story. Well, really great. Really great might be subjective. You know, I haven't swatched this palette in a while. And I've kind of upped my eyeshadow a bit. I wouldn't buy this. I think that, I mean, so I think I bought this for the idea of Sailor Moon, but I had never watched Sailor Moon. I'll link the video though, because I made some real cute looks, but they're a bit like powdery kind of. I don't know, why does she, okay. I think it's spring and I'm bringing it out. All right, the next palette we have is the Primrose palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. You've got face products, you've got these beautiful shades. Now here's the thing. This palette reminds me of my Vive Muse palette, but the difference between a couple differences, I don't think the shimmers are as good as the Anastasia shimmers. Like Fire Opal. Look at that shade. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I'm so sorry. That's ridiculous. The shimmers in Vive, I don't think they can hold a candle to the ABH shimmers. Now the mattes in the Vive palette that look similar to this are great. These mattes are not bad, but they're very powdery. I don't think I tried this blush. I really like this palette. I think it's a great one for spring. That's why I just did not understand that this was a holiday release. I have one more palette right here, and then there's one palette I want to grab if I can find it. But the next palette on my list is the Moonspell palette by Lunar Beauty. Great palette. I have already used it. I wanted to bring this out for spring just because there's so many different looks that you can do. A green look, a blue look, a neutral look, a purple look. I just think it's perfect. I think it's perfect. I think the quality is great. And everybody might not want a super bright or pastel look. So I like that each row has a different little theme in a way. And I think it's a really great palette. I don't think this is available anymore, so I am sorry. Check Macari though, because you know they always have stuff on there. Because Moonspell, this is the original, a great palette. And now, I forgot what I said I was gonna go. Oh yes, I'll be right back with the very, very last one, y'all. Now I could keep going with this, but I'm not. So we're gonna wrap it up with the very last palette for this video. Palettes that I want to bring out this spring. We're gonna go with Plain Jane by Adept Cosmetics. This is the original. This is not the remastered. Now, if you watched my recent videos, I did mention that out of the 3 Adept palettes that I have, This one is my least favorite, but I think it's because there are no mattes. But the shades in here are absolutely beautiful. I'm just swatching like a few of these shades. It is just such a beautiful palette.
Are you done?
I'm getting off right now. I am right now. I just got carried away. Let me just do this last part. Can I just say bye to them? May I say bye? Okay. Are you gonna stand here while I do it? Because if you are, I need you to press pause. But you gotta press pause.
I need to do like this.
Okay, let me go, because I'm getting carried away. And I am. I'm saying bye. I'm saying bye. Honorable mention. I didn't say anything because I keep hearing your iPad. This is the last palette, y'all. I'm not even gonna go into it, but I already did a video on this, the Hella palette. I'm going. This is it, y'all. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is restocking on March 22nd. That will be tomorrow if you're seeing this today. I think spring is the 21st. I hope it is, because that's when I have this go up, and this would be 22nd. This is a spring palette. Luckily I had it sitting here. Okay, it is movie night. I gotta go. I hope y'all enjoyed that, because I just love these palettes. I love them. Okay, thank you so much for taking out, why am I whispering? Thank you so much for taking out some of your time and hanging out with me today. Hold on, I cannot with this exposure. And I'm back to my regular exposure. Thank you so much for taking out some of your time and hanging out with me today, talking about these spring palettes. Do you have any of these? What are some palettes that you are going to be using this spring? Do you rotate your palettes based on season? Like, do you do seasonal palettes? Let me know all of that in the comment section. All right, y'all. I hope this was therapy for you. It definitely was for me. And until I see you again, make sure you are being gentle with yourself. Talk to yourself nice. Stay safe. I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.